featuring this amazing eagle on the treacherous 16th hole.
Doesn't want is a low skimmer.
"He's a ficking cheater" is the kind of line that makes golf fans stop scrolling. But the Ian Woosnam story is not as simple as that. The title promises a list of 5 golfers he named as cheaters. And that promise is exactly why you clicked. Golf sells itself as the cleanest sport in the world. Players are taught to call penalties on themselves, even when nobody is watching. That honor system is part of what makes golf feel different from football or basketball. A golfer who breaks a rule is expected to put their hand up and accept the punishment. But that clean image starts to crack the moment you look closer. Strange penalties, confusing drops, long putter loopholes, extra clubs left in a bag by mistake. And if this story already has you locked in, use the hype feature and give this video some hype, because golf's clean image is about to get a lot messier. Every one of these moments has, at some point, been turned into a headline about cheating. Here's the part that might surprise you. Ian Woosnam never sat down and named 5 golfers as cheaters. He never published such a list. He never gave an interview pointing fingers at 5 names. That part of the title is simply not true. What he has actually talked about in the past is which competitors he found toughest to play against, not who he thinks broke the rules. So why does the title still feel believable? The answer says more about golf's history than it does about Woosnam himself. This is where the real story begins, and it is messier than any fake list could ever be. Modern sports channels have learned a trick. They take a respected name, attach it to a shocking claim, and let curiosity do the rest. The same format used on Ian Woosnam has been used on other respected figures too. David Feherty, Butch Harmon, Johnny Miller, Nick Faldo, Jack Nicklaus, Darren Clarke. Each one has had a video built around the same headline, claiming they named 5 cheaters. It is a pattern, not a coincidence. The formula works because fans already sense something is not quite right with the sport's clean reputation. So a headline like this feels plausible even when invented. This is not really about Woosnam saying something shocking. It is about the internet borrowing a famous name to make old controversies feel like a new confession. Woosnam's actual public comments on rival players are tame compared to what the title promises. He has spoken about who pushed him hardest on the course and who he respected as a competitor. None of that involves calling anyone a cheater. That is what makes the story dirty. Not because Woosnam named names, but because golf has so many old rules wounds that a fake list still feels believable. Fans already remember dramatic penalties, strange disqualifications, and arguments about gray areas in the rulebook. A title claiming Woosnam named cheaters slots into a memory already full of real controversies. The lie works because the surrounding history is true. So why does Ian Woosnam's name carry so much weight when it comes to golf rules? Not because he accused anyone. It is because he lived through one of the most painful rules disasters in major championship history. A memory still attached to his name decades later. Ian Woosnam is not a random name picked for a thumbnail. He won the 1991 Masters. He reached world number 1. He was inducted into the World Golf Hall of Fame. But ask serious golf fans what they remember most about his career, and many will mention one moment that had nothing to do with his swing. That moment happened at the 2001 Open Championship at Royal St. George's. Woosnam entered the final round tied for the lead. This was a real chance at a second major championship. More than a decade after his Masters win, he opened with a birdie on the very first hole. For a few minutes, everything pointed toward a serious run at the claret jug. Then came the disaster. After he had already teed off on the second hole, his caddy, Miles Byrne, realized something was wrong. There was an extra driver sitting in the bag. The rules of golf are strict here. A player is only allowed to carry 14 clubs during a round. Woosnam had 15. Because the extra club was discovered after the first hole had already been completed, the penalty was applied retroactively to that hole. His birdie on the first hole was changed into a triple bogey. 2 strokes added just like that on the most important day of his year. This was not a case of a player trying to gain an advantage. Nobody accused Woosnam of intentionally using 15 clubs to cheat the field. It was an honest oversight by his caddy, with no intent behind it at all. Yet the punishment did not care about intent. The rule simply said 14 clubs, and Woosnam had one too many. Despite the disaster, Woosnam showed real fight. He still managed a strong final round and finished tied for 3rd place. But the damage was already done. A mistake that took less than a minute to discover may have cost him a real shot at lifting the claret jug a second time. Golf fans who remember that Sunday do not remember a cheat. They remember a man whose championship hopes were undone by an extra driver he never even knew was there. This is exactly why Woosnam's name carries so much weight in any conversation about golf rules and fairness. He knows, better than almost anyone, that this sport can punish a person even when there was no intention to break the rules. A simple mistake, made in good faith, can carry the same penalty as something done on purpose. That is a strange kind of justice, one golf has never fully solved. This irony is part of what makes the clickbait title so misleading, yet strangely fitting. The viewer clicked expecting Woosnam to expose other players as cheats. Instead, the deeper truth is that his own career proves how brutal golf's rules can be, even towards someone who did nothing wrong on purpose. That tension between mistake and moral judgment runs through golf's entire history. And Woosnam is far from the only player who has lived it. Take Dustin Johnson at 2010 PGA Championship. He was in contention on the final hole when officials ruled that he had grounded his club inside what they considered a hazard area, a patch of sand that many spectators had been standing on all week and did not look like a typical bunker. The penalty cost him a place in a playoff. This was not framed as deliberate cheating. It was a rules dispute about whether the area even counted as a hazard. But the public did not care about the technical argument. Fans remember a club touching the ground, a penalty arriving after the round had ended, and a major slipping away because of it. That is how golf works in the public imagination. Most fans do not memorize rule numbers. They remember the feeling of a moment, a club touching sand, a trophy disappearing. In golf, the smallest physical action can turn into a story about morality, even when the official ruling never mentions cheating at all. The same pattern shows up again at the 2013 Masters. Tiger Woods took a drop on the 15th hole that later turned out to be against the rules. The story became public after Woods described his own drop during a TV interview, a detail worth sitting with. He was not caught by an official watching closely. He explained what he did on camera, and that explanation triggered the controversy. The tournament committee used a rule that allowed them to waive disqualification since they had already reviewed the drop during play and initially cleared it. Woods received a two-stroke penalty instead and kept playing. Nobody officially accused Tiger Woods of cheating. The ruling was about a rules technicality, not intent, but the optics were messy. When one of the biggest stars in the sport gets a penalty instead of disqualification, some fans see fair process, others see special treatment. That gap between the official ruling and public perception is exactly how a technical mistake turns into a firestorm. Lexi Thompson's experience at the 2017 ANA Inspiration shows an even stranger side of modern rules enforcement. She was penalized 4 strokes after a viewer watching the broadcast at home reported a minor ball marking infraction. This was not something an official spotted during play. It came from someone sitting on their sofa, rewinding footage and reporting what they saw. Again, there was no accusation of intentional cheating. But think about what this means for the honor system golf is so proud of. A tiny action was slowed down, studied, and punished well after the moment had passed. This shows how modern golf created a new kind of pressure that older generations of players never had to deal with. It is no longer just about an official walking the course with you. It is about cameras catching every motion, viewers reviewing footage frame by frame, and penalties arriving long after the moment that caused them. Golf's honor code was built for a simpler time, one where a player's word and an official's eyes were enough. Mixing that code with cameras and delayed punishment can make a sport built on trust look anything but clean. Now turn to one of the murkiest gray areas in modern golf, the rule against anchored putting. Officials introduced Rule 10, 1B to stop players from securing a club or a gripping hand against their body to create a fixed point while putting. Long putters themselves remained completely legal. What got banned was the act of anchoring, not the equipment itself. Where this gets complicated is in how anchoring actually looks during a stroke. After the 2017 Masters, a former PGA of Australia Tour professional named Mark Allen publicly accused amateur golfer Stuart Hagestad of taking the silver cup away from Curtis Luck by anchoring his arm against his chest while putting. Allen also named 2 senior tour legends, Bernhard Langer and Ian Woosnam, claiming that in his view, they bypassed the spirit of the anchoring ban using long putters. Officials reviewed the situation and cleared Langer, Woosnam, and Hagestad of any violations. Their putting mechanics, according to the people responsible for enforcing the rule, did not create the kind of fixed anchor point the rule was written to stop. But here's the uncomfortable question this controversy raises. If a player's arm only brushes against their shirt during a stroke, is that the same as anchoring? If that contact steadies the stroke even slightly, does that go against the spirit of the rule even if it does not break the literal wording? Officials cannot measure this with a tape measure. They have to rely on watching the stroke and making a judgment call. When a rule depends that heavily on visual interpretation, how can fans ever fully trust the answer? This accusation stung not because anyone proved wrongdoing, but because it attacked the spirit of the game rather than the letter of the rulebook. Woosnam was cleared. Langer was cleared. Hagestad kept his amateur honors. Yet the public argument over what counts as anchoring shows just how fragile golf's self-policing system can be when the rule itself is open to interpretation. Equipment controversies add another layer to this same uneasy question. Back in 1991, Gary Player published a book accusing Tom Watson of using clubs that did not meet groove specifications, shortly after Watson's victories at the 1977 Masters and the 1977 Open Championship. No retrospective penalty was ever applied. Watson kept both titles. The accusation simply lived on as a piece of golf history, unresolved and unproven. Phil Mickelson faced his own version of scrutiny over square-grooved wedges that had been grandfathered in under an older rule. Technically allowed even though newer standards had moved past them. A legal dispute followed, and the wedges were eventually deemed conforming under a lawsuit settlement. He broke no rule that officials enforced, yet the controversy left a mark on how some fans viewed his equipment choices. Hideki Matsuyama's case in 2022 was far more clear-cut. He was disqualified from the Memorial Tournament after officials found his club face had been covered in white alignment paint, not allowed under the rules governing conforming clubs. Unlike Watson or Mickelson, this was not a gray area. It was a straightforward equipment violation, and the punishment matched it. Put these three stories side by side and you see the difference between legal, illegal, and simply uncomfortable. Some golfers follow every letter of the rulebook and still look like they are bending its spirit. Others break a technical equipment rule without the public ever knowing whether there was real intent. Golf does not always give fans a clean answer about which is which, and that lack of clarity keeps these old stories alive. All of this connects back to golf's long-standing honor system, the idea that players are trusted to judge themselves. In casual rounds, small mistakes get waved off without a second thought. At the professional level, the standard is much stricter. Strict adherence to the rules has always been treated as proof of character, and calling a penalty on yourself, even when nobody noticed, was once seen as the ultimate sign of integrity in the sport. This culture was alive and well during the era of golf's European Big Five, made up of Seve Ballesteros, Nick Faldo, Bernhard Langer, Sandy Lyle, and Ian Woosnam. These five players were close, competitive, and supportive of one another at the same time, dominating world golf throughout the 1980s and 1990s, and raising the global profile of European golf along the way. One story from that era captures the spirit perfectly. Sandy Lyle won the 1985 Open Championship using an old McGregor driver passed from Eamon Darcy to Ian Woosnam before it ever reached Lyle's hands. Neither Darcy nor Woosnam could hit the club well, so they handed it along. Lyle reshafted it and used it to win his very first major. That single club, passed between three rivals who were also friends, says something about how golf used to operate. Competitors helping competitors, even while chasing the same trophy. That older culture feels worlds away from where professional golf stands today. This is exactly why the modern cheaters narrative feels so ugly by comparison. It takes a sport that once sold itself on quiet trust between rivals and turns every gray area into a public trial, played out in front of millions instead of a small circle of professionals who knew and respected one another. You can see this fracture clearly in golf's more recent history, especially around the split between the PGA Tour and LIV Golf. Players who left for LIV faced direct accusations from those who stayed. Billy Horschel openly accused defecting players of hypocrisy and dishonesty during the tour split. These are no longer quiet locker room disputes between two players who will shake hands the next morning. They are public, financial, and personal battles, broadcast for the entire golfing world to watch and judge in real time. This fits the broader pattern running through everything we have covered. Golf's clean image has taken real damage, not from one dramatic scandal, but from a steady accumulation of penalties, accusations, gray areas, and public arguments that never seem to fully resolve. So where does that leave Ian Woosnam and the title that brought you here? He never needed to name 5 cheaters for this story to matter. His own career already tells a more honest and complicated tale. One extra club, left in a bag by mistake, may have cost him a major championship. One accusation about anchoring followed his name for years, even after officials cleared him completely. His story is not about exposing other players. It is about how unforgiving this sport can be, even towards someone who never tried to cheat. And yet golf is still worth defending, even after everything we have covered today. The sport holds itself to a standard very few others even attempt. Rules still matter here in a way that shapes outcomes at the highest level. The honor system, despite its flaws and gray areas, still asks more of its players than almost any other sport on earth. The problem is not that golf has lost its values. The problem is that in the modern age, every mistake can look like a scandal. Every loophole can look like cheating, and every old controversy can be reshaped into a viral title designed to make you click. Maybe that is exactly why fans keep clicking on videos like this one. They are not only asking who cheated and who did not. Deep down, they are asking something bigger. Can golf still trust itself, the way it once asked its players to trust each other?